Alright, it is the next day. My camera died last night, and I had to wait for all my batteries to recharge because I don't have that much foresight, evidently. But I got my batteries all charged for today. I'm going to put them in my pocket, and then I'll forget subsequently that they are in my pocket. But, in any case, we are in the planning phase right now for the table that I'm going to build for my TTRPG stuff. So, I'm kind of trying to figure out exactly what I want to do here. I'm going to build like a traditional apron around here, and the plan at the moment is to either go in the center on both sides. I could do a drawer, and then inside of that, basically what I'll do is, so if this is the table, I'll make the usable drawer space about, this is the way you can do this without having drawer slides, which I don't think I have enough of right now, so probably just going to have to make something work. Essentially, what you'll do is you'll put your drawer in. This way they don't fall out and they don't bend off or anything like that. You got your drawer, and this is your usable space right here inside all of these, right? And then you put a false back right at the point where you want it to stop being able to pull out. And then you will make the drawer, you know, quite a bit deeper, as deep as you can, and then you put a rail above it, a guide rail above it. The drawer doesn't actually have to be that deep, so in reality it would look probably more like this. It would be basically two boards on all of these. It'd be two boards that just continue out, and then the actual drawer would probably stop somewhere in that early general area. And that would slide along rails or something along those lines underneath the table, so that essentially they can't lever their way out and they're not going to tilt down a whole lot. You know, the further back you put the lever, and then we're going to have to put a stop on the inside on the bottom of the drawer, probably somewhere in that early general area. Right around here would be a drawer stop, and then these rails would continue back, basically the sides of each drawer, and then that'll let you, like I said, have a drawer that's not going to tip down on you or break off or fall out or whatever like that. So I'm thinking I'm going to do something along those lines, but I'm not sure if I want to go in the center, so a person could sit here and here. And then the other thing that I'm going to do, which I just, I think in last week's video I said that I bought some extra stuff for another project. That's this project. So I'm planning on wiring up outlets on the four corners of the table, and then probably one on each side, or one on each end, so maybe like here and here or something along those lines. And then I'll have a cord somewhere that I can plug in, and then if I don't want to use the cord, then I can just wind it up, stick it under the table, and you know, we'll figure that out from there. But I did buy an appliance cord so that I could hook up all the electrical boxes, and I can just plug it into an outlet. That way I can move it. I don't have to actually like wire it in. So, in any case, these are the three design choices I was thinking about. I can go with a traditional rectangle, which, kind of boring, but like functional. The thing that I was thinking about doing, which I thought was kind of cool, was a kind of cool idea. I've never seen anybody do this before, but like it'd be kind of nice. Would be essentially have your traditional rectangle table and either one of two things. So you can either, I'm guessing that this is going to be about 3 foot wide, so, you know, 3 foot across, and then probably, I would guess, about 7 foot long. I'm debating on that. I'm not sure how much usable lumber I have out of those boards over there. So about 7 foot long. So we'll probably have 3 boards going across, and we'll see what kind of distance or width we can get. And then this is the part that I thought was kind of cool. So right here, this would basically be like your DM or GM, depending on what you play, your DM or GM space. So essentially you'd have like the wings that come out here on either side of you, so that you could set up your GM screen if you want, and then you would have a separate, just a slightly lower, not a whole ton, maybe 4 or 5 inches, probably about the depth of the apron. The apron is this little section right here below the table, so if this is your tabletop here, this is your apron, and then your legs would come down from here inside. however we end up doing the legs. I am still debating on that. I'm not sure if I'm going to do like a farmhouse table or something along those lines, but we'll get there. So this would basically be your GM screen area, and then there would be, this portion would be lower, like I said, just this intersection, and then this upper sort of trapezoidy weird shaped piece would be at the same level of the table. And we could probably do something like this. So this is what I'm debating. So if I go full length all the way to the end at 7 foot, then we are basically going to assume probably this is going to be about a foot deep, if we are to believe that all of the boards are the same width. And again, I don't know how much I'm getting out of every board, but if this was a foot deep here, then that means that we've got 6 feet for the other players. So that means, you know, assuming regular sized people, we're going to say probably 2 people at each station, for lack of a better term, and then 1 on the end. So max this can seat would be 6. So we've got, you know, 3 foot for each person, which would mean that your drawers would be in your center here. So if your drawers were here, that would give you a little bit of room to sit. And then you've got your drawers in the middle, and then we'd probably have a drawer on the end here. And then the GM would probably not have any drawers. I could probably put a drawer under this lower section. Or maybe actually, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I could put a drawer in this section here in the drop down and just come right out onto the table. But the problem there would be that if you have your laptop or whatever, your books, anything set up there, then you're going to end up running into the problem of you got to move all your stuff to be able to open the drawer. So in any case, so the drawers, I was thinking basically like I said before, so we're going to have your so this would be the usable drawer space here, a dice tray, like a dice rolling mat in this side, so we'd have felt on the bottom of this side, and then on this side we could do, maybe we could do like a cup holder and then like a phone tray or something along those lines. Sounds pretty reasonable. Shouldn't be too difficult. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work out in practice. I guess you couldn't see that whole section I was doing over there. Not exactly sure how that's going to work out in practice there, but I think I want to go with this. So I'm not, this is the thing, is I'm not sure if I want to go with a 7 foot from player side, like just end, like 7 foot would be here, and then I would add another foot onto the end to make it an 8 foot table, but that's going to take up a lot of space. This is the problem with having your own space that you can do whatever you want with, is that you have to decide on what you want to do, which is the hardest part of any project for me, is making up my mind on what I want to do. I think regardless of what I end up choosing, I'm going to have to cut these 3 boards down, and that's basically going to be the same process that I used yesterday on the shelves, which would just be, you know, ripping a straight edge, and then I'm going to have to try and find the straightest boards I can. The table, I think, so with the shelves I left them kind of wavy because I didn't really care about them, but with the table I'm going to want it to be at least mostly flat, which means I might have to get out the planer and do 8,000 little passes in order to get the humps down on it, which would be pretty unfortunate. So yeah, we'll have to see how that works out. I'm thinking the rectangular is going to be the way to go, and then we'll have to just figure out what we figure out for that. This is going to be probably a lot of work, and I'm going to be out here until 3 in the morning again, but this is the general plan for the moment. We're going to work on milling some boards down, I suppose, and go from there? Question mark? Gotta figure out how many boards I have of a similar thickness. These are the 3 most similar boards in thickness. Again, not milled supremely well, but I'm trying to do the least amount of planing possible. What I'm looking at here is the width of my table is going to be, looks like about 34 inches, which is about here, which seems kind of small. This is gonna be a whole project, I know it. Just milling this tabletop's gonna be a whole project in itself. We're gonna have to figure some stuff out here pretty hardcore. Why do I do this to myself? I need to have this done by this Saturday. It is currently Monday. So I'm gonna do some figuring and some calculating and I will be back. So I kind of think that this is gonna be nothing to it, one of those nothing to it but to do it situations. There's gonna be probably a lot of problems with this project. Nature working with badly milled lumber. What we're gonna do here, I guess, because on these boards I don't have any milled lines at all. I don't have any even semi-straight lines. So what I'm gonna do is I already marked one chalk line here, and then I'll measure across from this chalk line and try and get the straightest line I possibly can. So we'll basically take we'll take our 12-inch chunk out of here or whatever we gotta do. I'm trying my best to stay away from the ripped off edges. It shouldn't be too bad as long as I have the top edge, as long as I have a little bit of meat that I can meet the two boards up with when I slam them together. I should be okay. If I go all the way to the edge right there, which probably isn't gonna work. So I'm gonna have to get a 10-inch board out of this, unfortunately. That's kind of just the way it goes. So we're gonna take our line here, or our tape here, and we are going to mark 10 inches away. And then we're gonna go down here. We're gonna mark our 10 inches away. And then we're gonna do the same thing on all these. Kind of just try and find a straight through line. And I do have a slightly thicker board over there and a slightly thinner board over there. I would really like to avoid as much milling as possible, because it's gonna take a long time and it's not gonna yield real good results. And the thinner that I make these boards here, the less strength they're gonna have as well. And I really like the look of a real thick, nice tabletop, so we're going to, just do what we can do. Make sure you've got proper ventilation if you're cutting like this, especially if you're not using a mask. I've got a fucking 16-foot garage door right behind you, and I'm gonna turn the fan on so it's gonna blow all the dust out that way. Sawdust is carcinogenic, some more than others, so make sure you're being careful. I know sometimes I lean away from the path of safety, but I don't want to die like this, at least. That seems like an unpleasant way to die, so I'll do something cool if I'm going to kill myself. Alright, so I've got my planer and my dust collector set up over here. Basically, I am going to be feeding the boards through there a bazillion and a half times in order to get them to the same thickness. So I'm going to basically take the measurement of the thinnest part of the thinnest board and try and get them mostly to there. If I gotta shim some, I'm not going to be too mad about it, but this is going to be pretty freaking loud, so I'm going to be probably dubbing over this. I don't know if I'll record the whole thing because it's probably going to take me an hour or two. So 2.5 hours of planing and 2 gigantic dust bags full of wood chips later, this is what we've got now. It's gonna need to be sanded just a little bit just to take the rough edges off, but much better than it was. It's still got some character to it. I'm not gonna do a whole lot. I'm not doing any wood filling or anything like that because I want this to look rustic adjacent, so that'll be good. I do have to figure out some table legs. They might end up being out of a different material. I'm not exactly sure yet, but we'll see. Okay, it's a little bit later. My body hurts very badly. Yeah, I've only got a couple of days left and I don't have full days left either, so I really need to get almost all of my setup glue going tonight at some point. So I've got an hour or two now, and then I'll probably have a couple hours tonight. So basically I've got my boards roughly dimensioned. I probably, just to double check, I know I'm reasonably certain that I cut a pretty straight line with my circular saw, but you never know. So I'm gonna run over them once, probably on each side with my table saw at some point here. And then I also have to cut wood for my aprons and my legs. I'm going to take this board, which is like the straightest board I have, and it's actually milled almost properly. I take this, I'm going to cut this into, think I can get 4 3.5-inch boards out of this one board, 4 full length 3.5-inch boards, which would basically mean I've got extra for my aprons. So if I need to make a brace out of it, or if I want to do a cross piece or something like that on the bottom, I should be able to cut that on the ends to make that happen. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but my back is screaming at me and my legs are screaming at me, and I opted to go with that. So the only other thing is that with that observation newly come to light, we are going to be making our legs out of something different. Okay, so I ended up getting 3.5-inch boards. They came out pretty alright, and they went much quicker. When boards are flat, they're easy as shit to plane. When boards are not flat, hours. It took me fucking 2.5, 3 hours to mill 4 boards. I mean, granted they were wider, so it takes a little longer, but because they were so badly cut, I had to take essentially only 32nd-inch passes off a bazillion and a half times, and basically you just take high spot, high spot, high spot, high spot, high spot, until you get to a place where the high spot meets the low spot, and then you can call it good. But I also had to match them all together so that they were all a uniform thickness for the tabletop. So now that they are there, I've got the aprons. Now I just got to sort out my legs. We should be relatively on our way. Dokely, it is now 9 o'clock at night. My feet are on fire, but I told you guys that I was going to get this glue up done tonight for the tabletop. So I gotta figure this out. Okay, new plan. Can't find any dowels, so I'm gonna do it the old fashioned, just cry a lot and do it by hand. Get them all set up to go, and then figure out what we gotta do from there. Alright, so it is now 11:18. I gotta walk away from this for the night. Getting a little frustrated. I pulled out my little, somewhere over there, behind me, there, my little electric planer, and I have been taking passes off of these things for an hour and a half, 2 hours here, and I still can't get the gaps to close. I mean, I'm taking it off where it needs to be taken off, but there's just so much memory inside this wood that it's frustrating me. So I'm gonna take the night, think it over. I'm gonna take all these clamps off of here, and like I said, maybe I'll come in here with fresh set eyes in the morning and make something happen. But for the night, my feet hurt, my back hurts, I'm tired. It's been a long day. Alright, so now that we cleaned up our space a bit, I have got a couple of semi-plans. I know last night I was having a really hard time getting these boards to join up without gaps. So that's going to be the plan for today. So I really need to get this glued up by the end of the day. I'm going to run out of time for, well, my timeline if I don't get it done today. So there's a couple of things I wasn't thinking about last night. Is that one, I know there's a method of straightening an edge with a piece of plywood. You basically cut a piece of plywood with straight edges and you double-sided tape it to the board. You can see I've got the double-sided tape and a piece of plywood there. I don't know if I have a piece of plywood long enough to go under this whole thing. And I'd really rather avoid cutting off the ends of the workpiece right now, because I'd like to keep it as long as I can until after glue up is done. so that I know what my exact length can be. Yeah, I think we're gonna attempt to straighten these and see what we can do. If we can't straighten them, we can't straighten them. We make it work. Alright, so I will be 100% honest and say I've never done this before, but I get the general idea. So basically, I've cut a piece of plywood wider than what my finished board is going to be. These were going to be 10, but just the nature of them being so cattywampus, I'm going to have to take them down to 9.5. I am going to essentially tape this to the face here and then have this board, this 1/4 inch board, hanging off the back edge of this board this way, and that will give me a straight line because I know I have this is a straight line. I just cut it on the table saw. And it should be dead straight. This board I worked with a lot last night. This one that I'm about to double-sided tape this thing to. I worked with it a lot last night, and I got it pretty damn close to straight. This is the straight board, and just this little tiny lip. You would not believe how much of a pain in the ass that is. They were a lot worse last night, but we're gonna try and get them perfect, because if you try and squeeze clamps together around a bend like that, then you're gonna end up with all sorts of problems. So I am going to attempt to do this in a last ditch effort to make it work. And like I said, I've never done this before, but it doesn't seem too complicated. And I'm gonna try my best to get this done so I can get the glue up done here shortly. And then I can start working on my drawers and my apron and all that nonsense. I gotta figure out legs yet too, so stick around for that. Okay, so you can see I've got it taped to here. I only taped it on one side. Hopefully that's okay. If it's not, then I'm gonna find out pretty quick. I'm gonna take it over to the table saw over there. Oops, over there. And I am going to basically set this edge, the longer edge, on the table saw towards the fence, because I know this is square. And then we are going to rip off the other side. So we'll basically just have to we'll have to increase our measurement by whatever this distance is, which is 1.5 inches, and that should, in theory, give us a perfectly straight board. In theory. Okay, that seems to have gone well. The real question is it actually straight? The littlest machining square you ever did see. So I'm going to check this for square, and hopefully we're good. Basically what you're looking for is to see if you've got light, if you can see any space in between. That looks fucking mint. Okay, so what that means for us is that now we have one square edge. Not gonna fuck us up. We can take this board and we can turn it around. We don't have to have the plywood under there anymore. We can turn it around and we can cut the other side, and it will be completely square. So let this be a lesson to you. Take it from me, who spent 3 hours last night attempting to get these things square, with an electric planer and a hand planer and everything under the sun, because I was too tired to look at what was in front of my eyes. And the solution was right there. So easy. Took me 30 seconds. Now I can flip it around. I've got a square board, and I'll do the same to the other 3 boards, and then we're good. Take it from me, I fucked it up so you don't have to. I was out in the shop for probably a combined almost 12 hours last night, or like yesterday in total. Maybe more than that. It was too long of a day. I was trying to push myself to get it done when I could have taken a break, taken the night, taken a rest, looking at it with fresh eyes. 15 seconds. Just gotta take it sometimes. I know I'm pushing this time constraint on myself. I still do want to get it all done by the end of the week, and I will push for that. If I run into a problem like this again, I'm just gonna set it down, walk away, come back with a fresh set of eyes. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be beating my head against the wall. In theory, until we get to the apron, this should be about the worst that it gets, but you never know. So I'm gonna rip these out. I'm gonna do the rest of these, get these square, and then I'm gonna hopefully get ready for glue up, because I need to get this done today. Okay, so I'm basically just making sure that everything will line up well enough. Looks like it's gonna be pretty good. I'm gonna have to do some sanding at the end of it to get it all straight. Right now, we've got just under a 33-inch tabletop, which is a little bit narrower than I was hoping to get, but that's what we got. And also, once there's glue in here, I know I was smacking on these pretty good just now, but once there's glue in here, these will slide around a little easier. Oh, something I gotta grab is a wet rag before I forget. Very nearly avoided disaster there. Let's see. Oh yeah, incredible. Well, we gotta attempt to not glue this to this clamp here. As I put glue on the wrong side like an idiot. That's about it. So that's our glue up. We're gonna have to wait for that to dry 24 hours and we'll hope that they come out alright, I guess. Well, I'm guessing 24 hours. We're gonna try our best to be patient. Alright, another day. Had to end up going and watch the kids yesterday, so you can get to get a whole lot more done after I glued these up. Let's look at that tabletop. I'm a little nervous, honestly. This is one of the biggest tabletops I've ever made so far. But we're gonna find out together if it fucking explodes. I mean, they were pretty dead flat, so I don't imagine there was too much of a gap anywhere. I am honestly pretty nervous about this. I got basically like a day and a half until I need this thing. So if it's in bad shape, I'm gonna be in bad shape here. Theoretically. Oh yeah, she's solid. There's definitely, I'll get you down here, definitely some spots I'm gonna have to sand down here and here. I think this spot here, and then that spot over there, and then this one was probably the worst. We made out pretty alright. That's not too bad. We can do some cleanup on the bottom of it if we want to. We don't have to. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a table that's staying in a barn, and it's used for me and my friends to game at. So we've got a little bit of work to do on the top of this. Probably do a rough sand first. We'll do a rough grind just to get the edges down to smooth them out. And we'll just run it up the ladder and basically get it to where I'm not looking to make this table incredibly smooth, but I am looking to make it not splintery. So we'll get there when we get there. So this is what I'm thinking now. I don't think those little tiny legs that I made are gonna do it. Unfortunately, it just is what it is. Might cut that out of the video entirely. You'll know if you've seen them before. This is 3 7/8 by 4 inches. This is some of the posts you can see up there. Over there. These were all up in here when I moved in. There were stalls all throughout this barn. It was completely covered in shit and hay. And I cleaned it out, took them all out because it was just, I mean, not what I was gonna use the barn for. So anyways, well, these things are pretty old. I like the look of them. I mean, they're gonna lighten up when I mill them, but what I gotta do is make 150% sure that there are no nails in this. So I'm gonna go find a magnet, and we're gonna run a magnet over it. And if we stick anywhere, we know we gotta dig a nail out. I don't imagine I'm going to be doing too much milling because I don't really feel like it. So 27.5. These plastic tables that I've got over here are to the bottom, about 27 inches to the bottom. Well, now that I'm thinking about that, that's not going to work out because if I try and cut a 27.5 inch leg, then I've got a 3-inch apron. I need a normal chair out here so I can test and see it's a normal height. I think a normal chair is about 18 inches off the ground, which seems pretty fucking low, but okay. That seems about right. I don't think 18 inches seems real low. Let's say at maximum, so this is a 20-inch high seat. So I've still got about 24 to 27.5 or a 4-inch, something along those lines, apron on here. I'd still have enough room. And I think if I gotta raise it up, I gotta raise it up. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the 27.5-inch legs and we're gonna make it pan out. I am running out of time to finish this build, so. And I know this is a self-imposed time constraint, but I really want people to come on Saturday and be like, holy shit, you built a whole table this week? Is that so much to ask for? I should update you, one of these legs had a big chunk off the corner that is separated, so I'm going to glue it up as much as I can. And I suppose that also means I'm probably going to opt for sanding these rather than planing them because 1, nails, 2, I don't want to blow any more big chunks off of this thing. This should be pretty stable after glue up here. Clamp there, clamp there. We'll do one more clamp at the bottom there. Never have enough clamps. While that stuff is drying, I believe it is make some cuts and sanding o'clock. Another trick here is that now that we know our edges are square, we can use a drywall square to make our final measurement and see where exactly we want to land here. Actually, I think I do want to cut off more over here because there's some snipe. You're not even seeing me. There's some snipe on this end of the table from the planer. Basically, just when it got to the end, the rollers let off of it and it hit. I don't know if you can see this. This right here, it drops off just on this tip here. It does. Pray for me. So I think what it's gonna come down to is I know myself and what I will get caught up on. And if I had all the time in the world, I would do the cool thing. I think unfortunately in this situation, I don't think I'm gonna do the wings because I know myself and I will get caught up on making the wings look all real nice and spend 8 hours on it and go crazy out of my way to make that a whole thing, and then the rest of the table will get neglected. As many problems as I already have and as little time as I already have, I think I'm gonna forego the wings for now. I really want to do it. Fuck. Okay, I've got a compromise. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it square. I'm gonna make it a normal table. I'm gonna put all this stuff on it. And I think what I'm gonna do is later on, when I have the time, I'm going to design a snap-on wing that will pop on the end of the table and support itself. I think that way the table will be more functional as just a normal board game table, and then we wanna play tabletop role-playing games, we can make it happen and just make it as long as I can. And that way I can fit as many people as I want in here. And everybody's got a comfortable amount of space. They've all got their own room to be in, and then I can get 1, 2, so I can get 6, 8 people at this table if I leave it long. And then if we don't have 8 people at the table, then people got room to spread out however they want. I think that will, I think that's gonna be what we're gonna do. I wanna do the cool design. This is the only wood I have for right now. Maybe in the future, I mean, honestly, I would this is a really, as frustrating as it was, if I wasn't dealing with these really fucked up boards, this would have been the fucking most fun. I mean, it still has been one of the most fun things I've done in a while, woodworking wise. I never get to work on stuff like fine woodworking. So yeah, I mean, if this turns out well, and I mean, honestly, if somebody wants a fucking table and they want me to make one for them and they want to buy the lumber ahead of time and I will make it as nice as humanly possible, I am absolutely down to do this again with real lumber that isn't completely fucked. But I would love to get into making gaming tables if anybody was interested. I think I could do some pretty cool stuff with them, and I know some people like the TVs in the middle and stuff. I don't really use minis, so not for me, but I could do that if somebody was interested in it. Put my headphones in and get rolling on this. It's gonna be a while, so enjoy. Did my rough sanding, and then I did my first 220 grit sand, and now I'm going to route the edges, take some of the sharpness off of them, and we will go from there, I suppose. so funny. So the table looked so unfinished until I just did that. That just this little bit of a rounding off really, like, it makes it feel so much more progressed than it was. I don't know why. I think it's just because of the raw edges. But it does look semi-professional now, so that's good. We got a little bit of a hiccup over there, that's alright. Not too bad. If anybody notices it, you ask them politely but firmly to leave. Also, what are they gonna do? I built them a fucking table to play at. I know, like, you can make do with a lot of things. And I do make do with a lot of things. It is so nice to have the right tools for the right job sometimes. Oh my god. So I did a good sand on it. It's real smooth. Smoothed over all the edges. I left a lot of these imperfections and stuff like that because I kind of want that. Like, these are probably nail holes from 300 years ago, whenever this tree was growing. Got these big holes and stuff like that in the knots. But I kind of like them. I think it gives it character. And then we've got these two big gaps here, and that one over there. I think I like the way it's turning out. It's actually starting to look like a table. So now I gotta figure out my aprons. I gotta sand. I sanded the tabletop. Now I gotta sand literally everything else. So I will probably get on that. So basically what we have to do right now is take some measurements and figure out exactly how long our apron has to be, and then from there we can notch our legs, or mark our legs, then notch them, and then so our full length, 100% our full length is 88 3/4. So from 88 3/4 we want to do probably like a 2-inch overhang. We have to remove 4 inches from the end of that, so that's going to be 88 3/4, so 84 3/4 is how long our aprons are going to be for the full length runners. And then, okay, so 84 3/4, and then we're going to take a measurement across 32 7/8, which means we're going to remove 4 inches from that, because 2 on each side, so that's 28 7/8, minus the thickness of the apron. Okay. That should get us pretty close. So I'm going to take these over. I'm going to cut 2 of them to 84 3/4, and then we're going to wait on the third and fourth measurements for the cross pieces of the apron, and we will cut those once we set the other ones into the legs. That way there's no discrepancy. We know exactly what we're putting in, and yeah. So we're going to mark this out over here. Following me. We are going to grab a square, a speed square from somewhere. Okay, basically what we're going to do is move these all the way out to the end. We're going to square them up. I'm just going to use this one for reference for square because I know I just cut 2 square ends on that. We're going to square them up from all the way to the top corner, close enough, and we're going to take them and we're going to mark across, and then the same thing on the other side. I know that these legs are not 100% square, so I'm not super concerned about it. But what we're going to do now is we're going to mark whichever side we think is going to be inside 1. So we mark this as inside 1, and then we're going to mark these as I1. I'm going to mark these as I1 right and I1 left. Now that we've got our pieces marked out here, we are going to take our apron for this side, and we are going to take our combination square, or you can use a tape measure, whatever you have on hand, and we're going to get it exactly to the measurement that it is, and we're going to tighten it down. And just because I know this wood is kind of not great, I am going to do this on both sides, just in case. And we're going to take this, and we're going to mark out. Then we're also going to mark, my head's probably in your way, but I'll get you down a little closer here. So we marked our depth on this side here. I don't know if you can see that right here. So we're going to scribble there so we know that's where we're supposed to be. And then we're also going to mark the end of where it's supposed to be. It's right there. So we know that we have to cut out this whole chunk here down to that mark. So we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Just make sure we have clarity that that's exactly what's supposed to happen. We know we gotta cut all of this out, all of this out. And so I have already looked at these, flipped them all the way around, looked for basically the worst section of wood. So obviously this part's gonna stick around. I will probably end up pinning this into place because it's a little splintery, but that's okay. It's not gonna hurt anything, except for maybe me when I stick my hand onto it later, because we know that this is like the worst chunk of wood where it's most likely to break anyways, so we'll just cut that right out because we need to. And then we're gonna rinse and repeat on the other side. Okay, then I marked the bottom of these because obviously I'm gonna cut this chunk off. So I just marked it with the one that it is. Gonna take my little circular saw and I'm going to bring it way up because the depth is way too low right now. Then you're just gonna make a bazillion and a half little pieces. I was going to clamp them together, but all of these are slightly different depths. Just gonna pop my headphones in so I don't damage my eardrums anymore and get to ripping. I'll show you exactly what I'm doing at the end of it. So then what we're gonna do, and take a hammer, a mallet, something along those lines. You're just gonna break all those out. On the side. And then all you gotta do is clean this up with a chisel or something and you're good to go. Okay, I did the other three already. I'm going to just show you the last one here. We're going to go along here and we want to make sure that our line stays crisp on the outside. So we're going to take our chisel here and we're going to just make a very, very light indent right on the outside so that we don't break out all the wood on this edge. We're going to do the same thing over here. We're just going to go up to our line, line it up, give it a tap. This is, like I said, this is basically just to avoid splintering outside of what you're trying to cut on the outside here. And then if we really want to, we could go along here, but I think we'll be alright. So we're going to just graze off what we can. I know that's the wrong way to use a chisel, I'm sorry. Blasphemy. Tap in from the end here at a slightly upwards angle, just to take off the bits that we know are supposed to be off. And we just want to take the points off so that we can start using the chisel proper. Like I said, this would have come out a lot cleaner with a dado stack, but I do have a dado stack, but one, I'm not setting that up right now, and two, I don't have a crosscut sled built that's big enough for this right now, and I'm not trying to build one right now. I gotta get this thing done. Now, we got a better basis to work off of. I need to get some nicer chisels. I'd be able to use them properly and just peel the wood up if I had nicer ones, but I don't. But if I start making furniture more often, I probably will get some nicer chisels, but just not a thing that I've needed so far. Into the corner, and we'll put a decent dent down in there. So this way, no matter what we peel up that way, it's not gonna go, it'll break out on us. So basically, we can peel up to that dent and the chip should just fall away. Marking out to do the second cut, we're gonna take our measurement just like the first time. Mark this bad boy out. You like my really awful table? Spud, you gotta stop doing that. After this whole endeavor, I mean it's needed to happen for a long time. I think maybe my next endeavor is going to be to make myself an actual workbench, and I think I might actually make myself one of those mobile table saw benches so that I can work in a not such a pain in the ass way all the time, especially if I'm going to start doing these bigger wood projects and or if I start selling them more. If you're watching this, Ryan, I'm very sorry. I truly apologize for the amount of time it's taken me to get your key and coat racks done, but it's in the works. It's actually probably somewhere hidden in the background of this shot right now. So in any case, we cut that off. This here, it's gotta get cut off. This here, and this here. And same thing on the other side. so the next thing I'm going to do is I've got this set up here. I am going to measure up an arbitrary distance. I'm going to say 8 inches here. I'm going to make a mark in my height. I'm going to mark on this one as well for 8 inches. And then I'm going to go 2 inches in. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you, that took me fucking forever. You can see there's plenty of wood chips on the ground on the table here. You can see in the background here, got these set up. What took me forever is these bottom ones. I ended up putting a peg in. I mortised it out on the side. And that took me forever and a half. So this is basically what I got so far. There's gonna be a stringer that goes from the center of that to the center of that over there for the bottom, so that it doesn't rock back and forth this way. Looking like something. Pretty solid. Had a split on the other side. I knew the fit was tight, but I didn't think it was that tight. But I'm also using reclaimed wood, so kind of nature of the deal there. So I gotta wait for that to dry. Okay, here's the start of what will hopefully be the last day of this build. I really gotta get this finished up. Sorry I'm skipping around so much. I'm trying my best to like put my time into this and then also record, and I got all of these pins in the ends. You can see those there. These, they went off relatively without a hitch after that first one. That first one was kind of a pain in the ass, and what I learned was, and because I'm learning about this stuff too, you know, I've done similar stuff, but I've never done, what do you call it, mortise and tenon type stuff, like for real. And learning how to like notch these here with not exactly great chisels and stuff like that. And I ended up having to supplement with the oscillator, which is never a good thing for fine work. You know, like I said, I learned a lot, and by the time I was done doing the last one, I was a lot quicker than I was when I started, which is good. I mean, it took me a couple hours last night to get all those. These guys here took me a long time to get that, and they're not perfect. They are not perfect. I know that. They are made of old barnwood 2x6s and all that kind of stuff, but I thought it was kind of cool to include a part of the barn's history in this table, and then because of that I've run into a lot of problems. But working with reclaimed materials and stuff like that, you're going to run into that kind of stuff. There's a reason why not a whole lot of people do that, is because it's a pain in the dick. But either way, yeah, so what I learned about the pins was that you're supposed to basically like sharpen them like a pencil. Not completely. I don't suspect any of you are probably doing this right away, but if you do, we're gonna take our dowel here. So flat, like I said, I showed you before what they kind of looked like, but I'll show you again. So this is what I did the first time. I only did a tiny little lip on there. And what I learned is that you want to sharpen them a lot more than that. Not a ton more than that, but you want to sharpen them more than that. And that will make it so that basically, I knew the general principle, but I didn't realize how bad it was going to be, especially with these boards being so walk-aroundy and they're not tight in yet. So what you want to do is something a bit more like this. That might have been a little overkill, or maybe even just a touch smaller on the top. Because you're going to drill through one piece of wood into another piece of wood, and if those holes aren't exactly aligned, this will give you the space that you need to get it through there. So that's what happened with that first pin. I actually ended up taking that first pin out and tossing it. I'll show you what the pin looked like after I was done with it, because it was a mess.
Nice.
But yeah, I mushroomed the whole tip out trying to pound it in. It was not sharp enough. And so that's something I learned that helped a lot. So once I realized that that one wasn't going to work, so I pulled all the other ones, I went and sharpened them a little bit more, and they went in super easy. The first coat of poly is on. I gotta let it dry for 2 hours, and then I gotta do a light sanding and for the grain raising. Okay, back at it. It is been about 2.5 hours. So I gotta do a sand on this just to bring it down and bring the grain down a little bit, and then we're gonna do a recoat on the top, and we'll see how it feels after that. I just did a real light coat on it the first time because I wanted to get the wood saturated, and now we're going to work on this here. Just get ripping on this. I gave it a sand all the way around. It's nice and smooth, but not too smooth. And then I wiped it down once with a rag, like a couple of blue shop towels. I did one dirty and one clean. And then, yeah, got all the dust off, so now we're gonna hit it again and rip it. Yeah, about to put the third coat on, so. I think that's gonna about do it for the coats. This one's probably gonna take a little bit longer to dry, which is fine because I am not moving this thing upstairs on my own. I will probably get back to you with this when we get it in place, and I'm gonna try and get some decorating and stuff done before my session on Saturday. So we'll see what we can do, and we'll get there when we get there. It's done. We played last Saturday, went great. Little hiccups with the audio stuff, but we're working on it. The table worked out great. Shelves look good. I think I hope you guys enjoy them as much as I have been. I think they look pretty nice. I still got a little bit of decorating here and there to do, but I gotta find some knickknacks to fill them with. So if you got any knickknacks you want to send me for tabletop or otherwise, whatever, I got the shelf space. So yeah, this is going to be pretty much it for the video, I hope. As I was editing it, I believe the original cut was about 2.5 hours long after I cut out everything I didn't think I needed. So I'm hoping that it didn't turn out that long for you guys. If it did, thank you so much for sticking around, or at least for skipping to the end. I'm going to try and put markers throughout so that you can kind of skip to the parts that you want to look at and whatnot. And yeah, this is definitely the biggest like learning task I've had to do on this channel yet. It was a lot of fun. It was just really hard. not awful, but it was definitely like learning on the fly and putting that time constraint on myself for the 1 week build, especially when I was watching my kids and I had other stuff to do in between. It was a lot of fun. If anybody else wants a gaming table, hit me up, or even just a kitchen table. If you buy materials and you wanna pay for the labor and whatnot, I'm absolutely down to do another one of these builds. It was a ton of fun. I learned a lot. Like I said, I definitely have a lot of things I would do differently next time, including not use old barn lumber that I just found laying around in my yard and in my barn. So, yeah, I think that's going to do it for this one. And thanks for watching Goner's Garage. We'll catch you next week. Bye.